Hey guys, we're back for another episode of Coffin Corner Podcast, episode 13. It's me and Sean again today, the big honey over there. Training camp starts in a couple days, so we're gonna only be talking Broncos today. It's an exciting time in the football season. What are you most excited for, Sean?
Football in general?
I mean, just whatever, yeah. Anything in life, really.
Well, training camp's always exciting for me. Get your first real glimpse.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say of the team just because, not everyone's making the roster, but it finally feels like football's back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
once training camp comes around, you go training camp at early in the morning, watch some Broncos practice.
Yeah. It's awesome, dude.
It's awesome. I love it.
It's going to be a hot one this year. But, I'm pretty pumped for this year. The Broncos, there's so much speculation on them this year. No one, it's not like they're the Patriots and they're going to be a playoff team. Some people have said they're going to go, win 2 games. So some people have them making the playoffs. Biggest story for me, obviously breaking news today. Not really breaking, but Dalton Risner and Drew Lock are holdouts. 2 days before the training camp season starts. It's kind of concerning for me. It's interesting going on Twitter and 2 days before training camp starts, it's like, oh, they're holding out, and it's like, well, haven't they been holding out since the draft then? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I know when you're on waiver, well, technically they're on waivers. You can participate in rookie minicamp, which is why it wasn't an issue. But you'd think people would be talking about this like a week ago, right? Instead of 2 days prior. And to me, it's kind of concerning, mostly on the part of Dalton Risner.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
Drew Lock, barring injury, probably won't play this year unless Joe Flacco's just absolutely atrocious. Dalton Risner has expectations to come in and start
immediately. Yeah.
So you have a starting lineman that's holding out, and you have the 5 preseason games, but you play August 1st?
Yeah.
He's probably not going to play.
Yeah. Well, if
he's a starter, but
yeah.
You're starting training camp and one of your starting linemen is already holding out.
Regardless if it's a rookie or not.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of concerning.
Yeah. Well, and for me, it's like he is a day one starter. When we drafted him, everybody knew that. And yeah, it's concerning for any starter to be holding out. But for a position that is so much needed on this team.
Yeah.
People are saying now that we have Mike Munchak and Dalton Risner, Garrett Bowles will be fixed. And there's so much hype around this second round pick that it's like, we want to see him play,
right.
Even if it's just practice. We want to see what he's made of, and so it's unfortunate to have a guy that, especially Broncos fans, he's such a fan favorite. Being from Wiggins, Colorado, it's a disappointment to see him, especially if he doesn't get signed before then, not to play. It'll be disappointing. Drew Lock, obviously, it's annoying, right? And it's like I wish it was kind of in MLB where you get drafted at a certain spot, that's what you get paid.
Yeah.
But for Drew Lock, it's less concerning just because, the fate of the Broncos is not in his hands this year.
Exactly.
And it would be nice to see what he's got. It would be nice to see him do well in training camp. But if he's not there, whatever. It'll give Brett Ripien more time to shine, I guess.
As bad as it sounds, Drew Lock's not there, that's not going to change anything. The train's going to keep rolling.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco's in here as a starter, and his mindset's to win games.
Yeah.
He's obviously not worried about anyone behind him.
Yeah, well, he said that before.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
And so I don't think Vic Fangio is either.
Yeah, well, and exactly. You know what I mean? It's not going to change the trajectory of the 2019 Broncos.
Not at all.
Pending, Joe Flacco's health. Another big story for me, since we're talking about health, Emmanuel Sanders and Phillip Lindsay both coming off injury. The one I'm more comfortable with is Emmanuel Sanders. And I'll tell you why, is because this whole offseason, and granted, social media isn't anything to go off of.
Right.
But I feel like Emmanuel Sanders has been more open about, his recovery than Phillip Lindsay. We've heard a lot more about it. So, seeing a video of Emmanuel Sanders running and doing routes and stuff, it's really nice to see that. With Phillip Lindsay, all we've heard from him is, well, I'm 100%, and it's like we haven't really seen any of that. Again, it's social media isn't anything to go by, but that's what I'm looking for from those two, right? Because you have 2 returning starters. Pro Bowl caliber players, and for a receiver coming off an injury who's an Achilles injury post 30, it tends to bode not too well for them. But Emmanuel's looking great. As for Philip Lindsay, we'll see, I guess. There's nothing to go off of. So
I got two questions for you in that aspect.
Yeah.
Do you think it has to do with the people they are? Emmanuel Sanders, he appears to be more outspoken in the limelight, whereas Philip Lindsay's, from what I've seen, super laid back.
Well, and I think if anyone was to be more adept to social media, it's Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah.
We've seen that in the past. But yeah, I do think, and that's, again, while we'll have to see what happens, but I do think, you're right. Emmanuel Sanders would be, I'd be less shocked if he posted than Philip Lindsay. So, I don't know. We'll see.
And then with Emmanuel Sanders, is it crazy to think, because he's coming off the injury, we don't know what to expect, honestly. He looks good right now.
Yeah.
Is it crazy to think that, maybe Courtland Sutton could take over the number one spot at some point this season?
Oh, absolutely not. And I think it's expected of him because of Emmanuel Sanders' injury. I mean, he had 700 yards as a rookie, not being the number one for some of the season. So
he was number 3.
Yeah,
most of the season.
Yeah, and when DT got traded and Emmanuel got hurt, obviously he had more room for improvement. But I think it's the setting and for Courtland Sutton is all right. That's mine to go take now.
Yeah.
And I think that's another reason training camp is going to be so fun to watch.
It's exciting.
Also, Courtland was here last year, Emmanuel was here last year, and it's going to be fun to watch that battle. But there are a lot of new faces on this team.
A lot.
It is a very different Broncos club. Who are you most excited to see out of the guys we got? Aside from rookies, who do you think is the best new addition to this team?
I really like Bryce Callahan.
Yeah.
I just like the fact that he's coming over with Vic Fangio. Added some depth to our secondary, which I think we needed.
Much needed, yeah.
Much needed. Lost Bradley Roby, which, whatever.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm excited to see Bryce Callahan and Kareem Jackson, obviously, in the new defense with Chris Harris coming back under Vic Fangio.
Yeah, well, for me, I tried to pick somebody that was different, but it all comes back to Joe Flacco. When we signed Case Keenum last year, it was kind of interesting because there was other guys on the market. We didn't get Kirk Cousins. And then early on in this offseason, we traded for Joe Flacco. So we've known for a while, we've gotten used to the fact that he's going to be our starting quarterback.
Right.
But we haven't seen anything yet. Again, it goes back to the training camp thing. It'll be fun to see how Joe Flacco fits. We've seen him play in Baltimore for how many years, and we know what kind of player he is. But when any quarterback goes to a new team, it's different.
Right.
So it'll be good. It'll be fun. Well, hopefully it will be fun to watch Joe Flacco. But, I mean, he's the one guy we're going to see on every play and get to overanalyze. So, for me, it's Joe Flacco. I'm excited, man. Yes, he lost his starting job to Lamar Jackson last year. But that was pending an injury on his part.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I just think at that point, you couldn't go back to Joe Flacco.
Yeah. It would diminish Lamar Jackson's confidence.
Well, and at that point, they had switched the offense to cater towards him. So it's like, if you go back to Joe Flacco, you're almost not resetting because that's what you started with, but you just couldn't at that point. Yeah,
well, and the weapons that he had, I think his best receiver was Michael Crabtree, and they had those young tight ends. He had Mark Andrews, but I think the weapons that he'll be surrounded with here are a little better than Baltimore's. Than they were last year. So I
would say so.
Yeah, and Emmanuel Sanders is a great short route guy, which I think Joe Flacco will like. But we'll see. It is Joe Flacco at the end of the day.
Elite.
Out of all these position groups, right? Because there's a storyline on every single one. Which one are you most excited to watch this training camp? That's a hard question.
Honestly, probably the tight ends.
Yeah.
Because we haven't. When was the last time we had a decent tight end? Julius Thomas.
Yeah. Tony Scheffler. I don't know. It's been a while.
So I want to see how Noah Fant looks. Jeff Hireman, like we were talking about, he got an extension or re-signed. So I'm curious to see the depth at tight end. See if Noah Fant can maybe separate himself.
That would be nice to see
from the group. So I would say tight ends probably.
Yeah. Well, and that's what hope you expect from a first-round pick is to separate themselves. And there are so many question marks surrounding this tight end group, and they're finally healthy. Troy Fumagalli and Jake Butt, all-stars in college, crazy numbers in college. Jake Butt was picked right before George Kittle. So it'll be nice, and two ACLs is a big, docket to come back from. But it'll be fun to finally see Jake Butt in action and Troy Fumagalli. And I think it'll help Noah Fant in the fact that, there's a lot of competition.
Oh, yeah.
Those two guys are fighting for roster spots at this point. Jeff Hireman just re-signed a deal, but, at best, Jeff Hireman is an average tight end. So I think it's going to be a battle for the tight ends. I think they're really going to show out in training camp. But the group I'm most excited to watch is the receivers group. Drafting Juwan Winfrey in the 6th round, a local guy from CU. I don't know if he's local, but he's from CU. Bringing him in and just the second-year guys who were, Deshaun Hamilton had some decent games, and obviously Cortland Sutton. It'll be fun to watch the competitiveness between all of them, having Emmanuel back. But just seeing those guys, especially Deshaun Hamilton, Tim Patrick even.
Right. He had a big role down the stretch with all the injuries.
And he wasn't a highly touted guy coming out of college, but he's built like an NFL receiver.
Right.
Same with Cortland. So I think it's going to be really fun, especially with a better quarterback, in the system. In Joe Flacco, is a complete upgrade from Case Keenum. So it'll be fun to watch them, compete and hopefully flourish in training camp.
And I think that's one of the beautiful things about training camp.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting everyone's best.
Yeah.
Because nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you've seen, what's the show, Hard Knocks. The coaches always say, I don't care where you drafted, we're going to treat you all the same. But it's going to be, it's the most promising group probably we have in the whole organization if you consider young talent.
Yeah.
So it'll be really fun to watch. Hopefully that will be exciting. On the other spectrum of that, there's lots of question marks and worries on this team. What would you say is the biggest one heading into this week? There's a lot. It's pick your poison.
Heading into the week, or what I think, maybe into the season.
Yeah, into the season, scope of, whole spectrum of training camp. What are the biggest, question marks / problems this team faces?
Again, I know you talked about Joe Flacco. I think he could also be a question.
Yeah.
I personally think he'll do well in this system with the Broncos, chip on his shoulder. I think that's a question, as well as potential maybe defensive back depth.
Yeah.
Once you get past Bryce Callahan and Kareem Jackson. So
Chris Harris.
What do you have? Isaac Yiadom?
Yeah. If you're saying like strictly cornerbacks, yeah. Isaac Yiadom is the next guy up.
Because we saw that last year with the depth.
When he was I'll give him the benefit of the doubt saying he was a rookie.
But, he showed signs.
But he did show flashes. So hopefully he can, capitalize on that. For me, it's Garrett Bowles. He's had a couple years now. And I think he has the benefit of Mike Munchak and Dalton Risner coming in. A bunch of people saying, okay, well, that's, Mike Munchak is going to fix him and all this stuff. I just don't see it, and yes, we didn't have Hall of Fame Mike Munchak before, but I think it's too far into his career to change, the offsides and the holding penalties and just the poor lineman play that he's shown us for the past couple of years. I don't think, adding a good second-round pick next to him and a coach will fix that. I think he's just not a good left tackle. But I might be wrong. Mike Munchak has fixed offensive linemen in the past. But, if you consider, question marks and worries, I think you have every reason to worry about Garrett Bowles heading into the season. So,
do you see a scenario in training camp where they could part ways? Or do you think it would take into the season?
I don't think it would happen this year. I think, if anything, if they're out there at the first team and he keeps getting bum rushed by Chubb or Vaughn or whoever and not playing well, I think that, a guy like Elijah Wilkinson or somebody, will take some first team reps.
Okay, let me rephrase it. Maybe not part ways, but lose his starting spot.
Yeah, I think absolutely.
And then
I think he could, yeah.
Could you see, because Juwan James is a right tackle by trade, right?
Yeah.
Do you think he could play the left tackle if he had to?
I don't know. John always seemed pretty adamant in the fact of, like, who's starting where, like Dalton Risner at guard instead of tackle.
Yeah.
And Juwan James is our right tackle, which very highly paid right tackle. But I think if Garrett Bowles loses his spot, I think it's to somebody. I don't think it's to anybody on the starting line right now.
Okay.
I think it would be Elijah Wilkinson to come in and take that spot.
And then I heard them 104.3 The Fan. I was listening to him.
Mm-hmm.
Depth behind Connor McGovern. What happens? Say he's not playing well or he gets hurt. There isn't much there.
For me, usually when it's offensive lineman gets hurt, you just say, oh, well, we'll have somebody else who's an offensive lineman play their position. But, he did really well last year when Matt Paradis got hurt at playing that center position. And if he would have gotten hurt, it would have to be a backup. You know what I mean? It would have to be, again, Elijah. I don't really know the depth behind our starters besides Elijah Wilkinson. But, somebody.
Sam Jones?
Yeah, Sam Jones. He has played center before.
All right.
I guess you'd go with Sam Jones or sign a veteran.
Yeah.
Just because putting the starting job of center on Sam Jones is a big, that's a big worry for me.
So it's a lot to ask.
Yeah, he's a 6th-round pick who didn't really play much.
Right.
So, and to go from, guard to center, having that much ability is difficult. It's a hard position to play. So, it's hard. Hopefully, every year that somebody gets hurt. And you can't avoid that.
It's bound to happen.
But if Connor McGovern gets hurt, it will be hard to find an answer for, I think. Last year, right, we had number 3, Philip Lindsay, in training camp. Undrafted rookie out of Colorado. Obviously, everyone knows his story. Pro Bowler his rookie year, all that. Who do you think is this year's Philip Lindsay? Who do you think will, catch a bunch of eyes heading into training camp?
That's a good one.
Crickets.
I want to...
it's a hard question.
Come back to me.
All right, well, I'll go
let
first.
you go.
I'll go first.
Let's come back to me.
Mine's Tim Patrick. And we've always had, training camp receivers that do really well. Jordan Taylor was one of them. But I think Tim Patrick, I think he's getting it. And I think the experience he had playing a lot last year will benefit him a lot. I remember there was a story on him, and when he signed with the Broncos, he got an NFL tattoo. Or it was before he signed with the Broncos. Before he signed with any team, he got an NFL tattoo. I don't remember where he got it, but he got the NFL shield tattooed on him, and somebody asked him about it, and he said, well, this is the only way. It's the NFL or nothing. So I think his drive is insane, and I think his ability is there. Speed, size, pass catching. It's just how much opportunity will he get? But I think Tim Patrick's going to turn a lot of heads this year. So
I don't necessarily have one that I can think of that's an underdog story, but someone that I think is going to surprise as we revert back to it, Noah Fant.
Yeah.
I just feel like because him and TJ Hawkinson at Iowa, that's insane that they had both of them.
Yeah.
I feel like Noah Fant is the real deal. Mm-hmm. So obviously he's not an underdog first-round pick, but I feel like he's going to...
But, there aren't a lot... Considering the depth there, I should say, there's not a lot of expectation for him.
No, and I think with Jeff Hireman re-signing, that kind of gives him a little more cushion to develop, just because he's not forced, I would say, right away to be the guy.
Yeah.
Not saying Jeff Hireman is the guy. I just think tight end's going to be a dogfight.
Yeah.
Because you have, like you said, Fumagalli and Jake Butt, they have something to prove. They need to get on the field, or else they could be gone.
Yeah. Well, 4 tight ends is a lot to carry on a roster. I think that, I agree with you. And I think Noah Fant is the real deal. And I love that pick. I think this year's Broncos tight ends is going to be very reminiscent of the Patriots backfield every year. Yeah. Who knows who's going to be in on the next play. But that's part of the excitement about it. It might be like that by the beginning of the season if it was how it is today. But one of these guys is going to have to break out.
Yeah. I think someone will separate themselves from the pack.
Yeah.
But going into training camp, it's going to be...
Yeah, well, and, it should be Jeff Hireman, right? He's the only guy that has had production in the NFL so far.
Yeah.
For the most part. Pending a couple catches. But he's the guy who got the deal, right? He's the guy that's been on the roster and played. So hopefully it's Jeff Hireman, because then we're getting what we paid for.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think it will be. I was surprised when we re-signed him, honestly, just cause, and I get it. He's the only guy that's been on the field. He's the only one that's been healthy, but he's just not a very good tight end. So, yeah, I think aside from Jeff Hireman, I think he should be the one if I was to guess. But I'm hoping that another guy steps up behind him and just balls out.
Yeah.
Just because we need it, and so it'll be fun to watch. I don't know who's going to start getting first-team reps or how they're going to divvy that up, but
Well, and then you have the Joe Flacco factor.
Yeah.
Who loves
tight ends.
I feel like that position group is going to take a huge step.
Yeah.
From where it was a year ago, even these past couple years.
Well, and Jake Butt's a 4th-round pick. Granted, he has 2 ACLs, but Mark Andrews was a 4th-round pick, I believe.
Yeah.
And he was extremely productive with Joe Flacco.
You look back to like the Dennis Pittas.
Yeah. Well, and they had They always had 2 tight ends, Ed Dixon and Dennis Pitta. Last year he had Mark Andrews and the redheaded guy out of South Carolina.
I know who you're talking about. I can't think of his name.
I don't know. He's a tight end drafted in the 1st round, though.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he had good tight ends. So maybe that's what happens. Maybe Noah Fant and the next other guy, whoever that is, becomes the next Ed Dixon and Dennis Pitta, which would be great for this offense.
It would be huge.
It would open it up tremendously if
huge.
you have the same production from all the other guys. Philip Lindsay goes for 1,000, and you have Royce Freeman back there, and Cortland does what we wanted to do. Just having that opening up the middle of the field would be huge for us. So hopefully that happens. And if anybody's going to do it, it's Joe Flacco. But we also need the tight ends to step up a little bit. Speaking of our tight ends, there are a lot of guys on this roster who might find themselves as free agents very soon. Who do you think is like leading that pack? Guys that are probably going to get cut.
Yeah, I think Sua Cravens is definitely on the bubble.
Mm-hmm.
You traded, a 5th-round pick for him, I think?
Yeah, last year. Well, and he was a 2nd-round pick out of USC, too.
Yeah.
So. I mean, it was a decent trade when it
Came
happened.
over from Washington, wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
And then when he starts playing, it's like, I don't know, he didn't have an impact.
Yeah.
I don't want to question him and his character. I feel like I don't know if his work ethic or I don't know what's holding him back, honestly.
Yeah.
Because he's talented.
Mm-hmm.
If Vance Joseph and his staff didn't get retained or got retained, I don't know if Sua Cravens would still be here. I think the fact that there's a new coaching staff, they're gonna give him another chance.
Yeah.
But I think if they bring back the same staff, Sua Cravens would be gone.
Yeah, and I don't think if Fangio, who's here last year, I don't think we would have traded for him. At the time, I liked the pick because I remember when he got drafted by Washington, I was like, I like this guy coming out of USC. He's a safety that can play in the box, which is versatile, kind of like Budda Baker. But yeah, he just hasn't translated at all. Every time he's on the field, I watch him specifically because I'm excited about this guy, and he's just never around the ball. He's always just on the field, but it's like, Sua Cravens is playing. I didn't even, okay, he's on the field.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of promise there, and I just don't think he's going to make the jump either. I think, especially a new coaching staff, he might get another shot, and if he does well, he might make the team. But I definitely think by the end of this training camp, he's going to be a free agent.
Especially when you have a new coaching staff come in, that's always something that I look for. Is like you're taking over other players that you might not have even wanted to be a part of.
Yeah.
You're taking same with college.
Yeah.
You get a new head coaching gig. You didn't recruit these kids.
Yeah. So I mean, it's harder to coach that way.
Yeah. So
unless you have a really fucking good roster.
Right.
Which the Broncos have a mediocre one, I'd say.
So you have Vic Fangio coming in, who might not want anything to do with Sua Cravens.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I don't know.
We'll see. And if he does the same thing he did last year, Vic Fangio is going to cut him.
Yeah.
A guy for me is Devontae Booker, another guy that coming out of college, he was a beast, and I liked him a lot.
Right.
When we drafted him. But it's just eerily reminiscent of Ronnie Hillman in the fact of he has a few good plays here and there, and then he's just unproductive. And I think with this running back room being so crowded now, he's fighting for the 3rd string running back, spot. And to be drafted where he was drafted and have spent this much time with the organization and not been as productive as he has been, I think he needs a really good preseason for them to retain him. So
I think the only reason he's still on the team is his run blocking or pass blocking ability.
Yeah.
Because in the aspect of running, he doesn't add much value.
Yeah, not at all.
Team.
And if you want to talk about pass blocking, we have a younger guy called Royce Freeman who's pretty good at it too, who is also productive in running and in the red zone. So I don't know. If we keep him, I don't really care. Just because whatever. It's not like he's taking anybody's spot. Another guy that had a lot of promise coming out of college is DeMarcus Walker.
Yeah.
Who to me has been one of the most irrelevant players on this squad. Drafted him in the 2nd round out of Florida State, pass rusher.
Yeah.
They've tried to, he's played outside linebacker a little bit, but the pass rush just did not translate at all. Super productive in college, but just cannot translate. You know, he gets dominated, and he's had a couple good plays like any player has. But also you look at, you know, we lost Shaq Barrett, but the depth is there for pass rush. You know, even Adam Gotsis and Derek Wolfe, Vaughn, and Bradley Chubb. I just don't think DeMarcus Walker is going to find his way into the mix. He hasn't yet, and he to me, he's not a very good player. And he was, when we drafted him, we knew he was a developmental guy, and he just didn't develop. So, yeah, those are my two. I think, you know, Devontae Booker and him.
With DeMarcus Walker, was it that Vance Joseph made him shed weight? Is that what it was?
Yeah, he got a lot skinnier.
So I heard, I don't know how trustworthy the article was, that he's been putting weight back on and feeling better under Vic Fangio. I don't know if it...
I don't know. It just reminds me...
No, yeah.
Granted, he wasn't injured, but that just reminds me of Shane Ray a little bit, you know? And I love Shane Ray. I had his jersey. Like, I loved him coming out of college. But, I mean, if gaining weight was the only problem with DeMarcus Walker, I mean...
Yeah, it's probably
how much better can he get?
Right.
You know what I mean? So, we'll see. Again, it's all, you know, speculation. But
my other guy on the bubble is going to be Jake Butt.
Yeah. You got to put one of the tight ends on.
I just think with 2 ACL tears already, even if he comes back fully healthy, I don't know what that would look like.
What is fully healthy?
Especially the mental aspect of everything.
Yeah.
Like after you tear your ACL twice, trying to get back on the NFL field.
Yeah.
When you have, as we mentioned, 2 guys ahead of you already.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure it's intimidating knowing that, like, you know, I haven't played in so long, and
right.
like, what if I get hurt again? And I'm sure it's intimidating to do, and knowing that, like, there's so many tight ends that we don't know how good they are.
Oh yeah,
so.
And like I said, after you make that first cut when you're fully healthy, it's got to be creeping in the back of your mind, like, oh God, like
this might hurt.
Yeah, like hopefully I can do this.
Or that first tackle, even. You know, that first block. It's like, yeah.
And then even the smallest of injuries could be demoralizing when you've been out for 2 years.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's kind of like, you know, it's almost like the whole MPJ Summer League thing.
Right.
You know, he didn't get to play in Summer League, which we're talking about basketball now, which is totally different. But
it's the same thing, I would say.
It's hard, though, when you come back from a long injury and then you have something like a toe sprain or turf toe or something.
Like going back to Michael Porter Jr., I don't want to talk about basketball. But
yeah.
You have 2 prospects that are highly touted. Yeah. Highly touted prospects that just can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
So at some point, like, you're gonna have to see what they can do, or you're gonna have to move on.
Yeah. Well, and it's easier to move on when you have other people chomping at the bit to get in there. So, you know, we keep coming back to this tight end group, and it's gonna be fun to watch.
I think it's just gonna play a huge role in our success or
failure.
Yeah.
As an offense. Well, and I mean, you know, this offense isn't gonna be top 10.
Mm-mm.
If we finish 15th, I'll be ecstatic. But if we want to be in 15th, we need something out of that group, even if it's, you know, tight end by committee,
right?
Which it most likely will be.
See it.
Which I would be totally fine with. You know, if it was Noah Fant and Troy Fumagalli, I would love that. So, and to get productivity, out of both of them would be great. But again, it could end up here or down here. So we'll see. But yeah, man, training camp. I'm going Friday. Are you going?
I might tag along with you.
All right,
I don't know.
do it.
We'll see.
We'll sneak in a Sixer or something, and we won't actually do that. But
real quick, expectations for the season.
Oof.
What do you have?
I almost forgot about that.
What do you have as?
What would I do without you, Sean?
The ceiling for this team.
God, the ceiling is the roof.
The ceiling. Hashtag MJ.
I think the. You know, if they won 7 games, and obviously, yes, that puts them out of the playoffs. If they win 7 games, I'd be happy with that. Not necessarily happy, but I think that is their cap, just because of the division. You know, we've got to play the Chiefs twice, and you know, MVP Patrick Mahomes, and then you got the Chargers, who to me are the most complete team in the NFL, and then, you know, don't knock off the Raiders yet either. They're a totally different team. So you got 3 first-round picks on that team. They signed LaMarcus Joyner and Antonio Brown. So, like, this division's going to be...
It's going to be rough.
It's going to be rough. So I could see us winning 1 or 2 games in the division this year. Which, you know, as a Broncos fan, that hurts me. It pains me to say, but I'm not going to lie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just think, even just ranking the quarterbacks in this division, we come in last. The only thing we might be better than some people at is pass rush, which we're top of the division in that. But that doesn't, yes, we have 2 All-Pro pass rushers, but that doesn't necessarily translate into wins. So yeah, I think 7-9 is the best we will finish, and then 5-11 again. I think will be somewhere in between 5 and 7 wins.
So let me ask you this real quick before I say what I think. If you think that those are the expectations, do you see a situation where Drew Lock could see some time?
I do. I think 7-9, right? That's like 1 win every 2 or 3.
Right.
I think if we start off the season incredibly terrible, right? Like if we start off 0-5 or 1-6 or something, I think and look back to when we had Kyle Orton and Tim Tebow was on the bench, and Tim Tebow's not a good quarterback. Obviously, we know that now. We didn't then, but when he wasn't doing well and we weren't doing well, people were putting up, banners alongside the road that were calling for Tebow. And, part of that obviously had to do with the hype around the fact that he was Tim Tebow. But I think in the NFL, if you have, we drafted this quarterback in the 2nd round to develop and stuff, it's like, if we're doing bad, people want change in results now. If we're 0-5, people are like going to be pounding the table for Drew Lock. So I think if we start really bad, really shitty, I think Drew Lock might play.
Right, because you even saw that with Chad Kelly last year.
Yeah.
As sad as it is. I was at a preseason game.
People were calling for Kyle Sloter at one point.
That's my boy.
But I mean, not a starter in the NFL.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
I would say, I'm a homer, being biased, 10-6.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think that's their roof, their cap.
Yeah, their ceiling roof.
Yeah, I think they could. I think they could go 10-6. Look, last year with the Chiefs, as good as they were, you were in both of those games.
Yeah.
So say you split with
and one was in Kansas City.
One was in Kansas City, and then one of them, you have Case Keenum overthrowing Demaryius Thomas in the end zone. That would have won them the game.
Yeah.
So say you split with Kansas City, even split with the Chargers. We beat them in L.A. last year.
Yeah.
Last game of the season, that doesn't count. They destroyed us.
But we still beat. Yeah, I mean, we still beat them.
We beat them in LA.
In a meaningful game. Yeah.
And then I think you could take both from Oakland. I think because you have them week 1, which nobody knows what you're going to be after the first game.
Well, no one knows. I mean, there's more question marks surrounding Oakland than there is Denver.
So you have them week 1 where there's, not really expectations for either team at that point. You steal one in Oakland, come home and win one. I think you could go 4-2.
That's starting off the season.
In the division.
Oh, yeah,
if you can split and then somehow take both from Oakland.
Well, and if we did that well in the division, that's the key to success for most teams is divisional records. So, I mean, if they go 10-6, do you have them as a wild card?
Wild card, yeah. Okay. I honestly think the Chargers might win our division this year.
Well, and even if we win, I mean, you could have 3 teams from the same division go to the playoffs.
Yeah,
so,
you could.
Which, if we go 10-6, I could see happening.
And then, just real quick, I'll wrap it up. But
no, you're good.
I like the defense. I think the defense is going to have a strong year. Honestly, Joe Flacco, I think, is going to have a good year. At this point, I think I'm just comparing him to Case Keenum and Trevor Siemian. So anything for me is an upgrade.
Yeah.
But he lost his job, as we stated. He's an older quarterback. He's still got something to prove.
Yeah.
And because what is it with his deal? Nothing's guaranteed, right?
I'm not sure. I
don't remember how it works.
It's been too long since I've
But he's got something to prove.
Yeah.
And he's won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And during that run, you could say the defense, whatever.
They weren't the best team ever when they won either.
Yeah, he had 11 touchdowns, no interceptions in that playoff run. He's had one losing season in his career.
Yeah.
So he has a strong defense. If you can establish a running game,
which
we have
a good chance of doing that.
All he has to do is not turn the ball over. And
we've
been saying that
he's good at that. So
we've been saying that since we lost Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Just take care of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
If every possession ends in at least a kick, whether it be a punt, kickoff, just don't turn it over.
Yeah.
So I think 10-6 is not out of the question.
What do you think their floor is?
Probably 6-10.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be worse than last year.
Yeah. Well, and if they, I would rather, if they're going to go 7-9, I'd rather have them go 5-11 than 7-9.
Oh, easily.
And that's hard to say as a fan because every game I watched the last game of the season. I was rooting for them. I wanted them to win, But if you're not going to make the playoffs,
there's no point in
get
being
a better
mediocre.
draft pick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like they're the one team in the NFL no one really knows. Like, we know that the good teams are going to be good. We know the Colts are probably going to be the best team in the AFC.
The Patriots are going to be good.
Yeah. The Seahawks are probably going to make the playoffs, even though they have a normal roster, but they have Russell Wilson.
The Saints will be good.
Yeah. Saints, the Rams. Yeah. But I feel like people just don't know. And we've heard on ESPN, I don't remember who it was, but they had them going 2-14, and then you had another guy on NFL Network saying they're going to go 11-5. So even the experts, are we the experts? I don't know. Not kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Talk to me after week 1.
No, for sure.
And it's
there's
just too much question marks.
You have a late game in Oakland, last game of the week 1.
Yeah. Monday Night Football.
So
it'll be a good, it's like getting into a cold pool. You just got to jump in,
Right.
And it's just going to be boom, first game, prime time against a division rival. Let's set the tone for the season. And I think that game will set the tone for the season regardless of the outcome.
And I think there's just so much disrespect to the Broncos nationwide. I think it's fueling them. I think Chris Harris had an interview where he
said... On
NFL
Network, I believe.
He said they can do whatever. They can doubt us until we hit them in the mouth.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah.
I think our title odds went down once we signed Joe Flacco.
Hey.
So stuff like that.
I don't know how.
Stuff like that fuels them.
Well, we'll see. It's going to be a fun season.
It will be.
We're going to have all the coverage. But that is it for episode 13. Remember to follow us on Twitter at Coffin Corner Met, and on Facebook, Coffin Corner Podcast, and on YouTube now. Just search Coffin Corner Podcast, and you'll find our link. Sean, you want to?
Yeah. Check out at Big Honey Sports. Find me on Twitter and Instagram. It's revolutionary.
Revolutionary. Wow.
Not really, but it's going to be
all the best takes.
It's my little sports network at Big Honey Sports.
Sounds good. All right. Well, we will see you guys soon with some post-training camp updates. Tune in next time, guys. All right. I can't find my mouse. Fuck. I'm gonna have to edit this. Where the fuck is the mouse? Oh, there it is.